Hello, I'm Dave March, the Spy Guy, and I just finished watching this interview with on the Winston Marshal show about some of the stuff that's going on right now, and mainly about historical revisionism. And it was kind of interesting. They got into this whole case about some uh, historian who was a Holocaust denier named David Irving. That was why I nearly typed him in. I'm still recovering from my cold, or still have the cold. Anyways, it's a really interesting thing. This apparently Irving in the 80s or in the 90s tried to sue someone who called him a Holocaust denier and try to get her book banned. And it's a really interesting case in that regard. But there's also these just it is interesting the people who are just sort of like trying to always eliminate the Holocaust from existing and trying to say it never happened. And I'm always reminded of this old TV show from the 70s called Lou Grant, which was a spinoff of the Mary Tyler Moore Show. And in it, I think it's the Lou Grant. It might have been like a Quincy, so not 200% sure. But they're covering this trial of like a Holocaust denier, and they bring in they find a Waffen SS officer and expose him as the war criminal. And so they bring him on the trial to testify against the Holocaust denier, and he's like, "What's your problem, man? We're proud of what we did. We killed all those people. It was necessary for the good of the German race." And you're trying to deny our biggest achievement, and just crazy stuff like that. So that's always what I always think of. I'm always reminded of that particular scene in that TV show where the guy says, "Why are you trying to downplay our stuff? We did a good thing." Not that I think they did a good thing. They killed members of my family. Okay, so I'm not pro Nazi, but it is just like that's where I come when it comes down on Holocaust denialism. Is like the Germans kept really good records, and the Waffen SS officers always tell you that is their proudest achievement. So that's what happened. What's going on there? But they had this thing here, and they went into Daryl Cooper a lot, or Martyr Maid, who they're like, he says Churchill's the greatest villain, and he's like, guys, he made that as a joke. He clearly joked. There's a follow-up interview with Tucker Carlson in which they said, of all the things we said that day, I thought that was going to be the least controversial. And then everyone freaks out. And of course, the reason they freak out, and they do talk about this a little bit in this podcast, is that World War II, and Peter Hitchens also talks about this in his book, The Phony Victory. World War II is a religion, is the founding myth of the post-war Western order. Peter Hitchens talks about in his opening chapter, or his foreword for his book, The Phony Victory, he's like, me and my brother were sent to school, and we were taught religion, and we were taught the religion of World War II. And over time, that has faded. Certainly, I was again taught I had to self-teach myself the story of World War II. We were kind of skipping through that period. Thank you, Pierre Elliott Trudeau, for revamping the education systems so that we don't talk about some of these things anymore like we used to. And he purged the Canadian military. I have a friend who was said, "Oh yeah, I knew guys who would never get promoted or were kicked out of the army for being friends with the wrong colonel." That's the kind of world we live in. So I'm going to cut. I'm going to share my screen here, and you can watch. Ooh. Let's try sharing and not muting my screen. And here's the tail end of the podcast, which I thought was kind of most. You can go and watch the whole thing. I recommend, if that's your thing, please do. But here,
it's maybe it's a sort of conspiratorial way of phrasing the sentence that we have a common understanding of World War II.
Yeah.
I have one that goes against the grain, and every time I do speak up against it, I get criticized. Well, I'm sorry, bad ideas.
What's wrong with
criticized.
criticism? We historians are an incredibly cantankerous, disputatious lot. It's very difficult to find us all agreeing on things.
Right. We don't agree on everything, and we have our own theories of what happened. I certainly have theories. My personal theory is if Churchill hadn't done it, someone else like Clement Attlee would have done many of the same things. Maybe Clement might not have been as hard on the blockade. Certainly, I haven't read the texts of the things. I'm much more of a generalist than going into a specific thing. But we know a lot more, and that's kind of where we go through this.
But if the evidence is overwhelmingly compelling about Hitler as the man who started World War II, as the beginning of a deliberate attempt, believe it or not, to take over the world, it's quite difficult to get back and realize the scale of his ambitions. If the evidence points in that direction, you can't just deny the evidence.
Yeah,
like that's my thing. Like a lot of this, the Tucker Carlson, the Bartermaid stuff is coming from the Pat Buchananite right, who are still upset that the British Empire, conspired with FDR in violation of the Neutrality Act to bring in America into the war for their own good. But that's very paternalistic, and Americans don't like that. But I think they were going to be entering the war. I have a book around here on Wendell Willkie, and I've done some research on his 1940 campaign. And even the Republicans are gearing up because public opinion is swaying towards war with Germany or Japan. So public opinion is moving in that direction. So for intervention. So there's that.
Yeah, quite. It also seems to me that the Second World War is the founding story. I think someone like Cooper would call it the founding myth. But
there we go. Even these guys are recognizing that this is the thing. And like the problem is that after 80 years of this founding myth, this founding story, where the general public is now starting to ask the questions that me and this, I've never heard of him before today. I have a lot of Anthony Beevor's, Sir Beaver's stuff. And I have other British historians, of course, in my library. I just haven't heard about this guy.
I think that implies what we understand of it to not be true. But I think it is the founding story of the modern era, and perhaps that's one of the reasons why it's being re-litigated.
Yes.
Moving forward, for those of us who are going to have to face maybe not the battles that you did, like you did in that famous case with Irving, but the next generation of people fighting for the truth against the conspiracy theorists, what wisdom do you have to impart to them?
Well, first of all, take it seriously. Take conspiracy.
Yeah, take them seriously. You have to engage. This is what this guy is going to say in the next few moments. And it's so refreshing having dealt with so many people who just want to shut it down. Shut it down. Don't talk about these things.
Address them, what they are. Tackle them head on. Do the work. Interrogate them. Ask where they got their sources from, what they did with them. I think that's the most important thing. Back in the 90s now, I had to give a series of lectures on post-structuralism or postmodernism. And essentially that's the idea, which is very much, or it understood itself to be, a left-wing idea, that meaning is put into a text by the reader and not by the writer. And if that were true, then we couldn't do any history anymore, because it's just all invented. And so I decided to write a short book based on my lectures, called In Defense of History, where I try to argue we can know objectively about the past. And I think we still can.
Yeah.
So Richard Evans, on that note, thank you so much for taking the time to
There you go. Like I do, if you're interested in this kind of thing, I recommend watching that particular episode. If you're not, you're not. But I just found it very important that we should get the message out there to people that, yeah, there's history is out there and it's always being reinvented. I have a book here called Double Cross, but this is like by Ben McIntyre, who has a lot of TV shows. I think I haven't read his book on the Special Air Service yet, but it's better. I'm betting it's going to be better than the TV show because I found that how do you make the Special Air Service show boring? Anyways, so this one here, but I have also the J.C. Masterman book. And the big difference between one and the other, Masterman's book on double cross is written before they would let people know what happened to before they released Enigma. So when I used my book on, when I wrote an article on the double cross system, I didn't know how much Enigma played a role in it, but it did make sense out of Enigma. And then, of course, when I get this book, I get more information, including how Enigma was used to get this stuff. And it's always it's always hard because Enigma is such a great tool in intelligence, but it also causes some screw ups from now and then. I think I mentioned one of the previous episodes about the Rommel situation, but the bulge happens because of Enigma, because Hitler finally figures out something's going on. Now he thinks it's high-level generals that have that are leaking or spying on him and reporting all his operational orders to the West. They just tried to kill him. So he has good reason to suspect that. So all the operational orders for Bulge are no longer going out on general transmission. They're being carried from officer to officer, from the planning groups to planning groups, by Waffen-SS, armed Waffen-SS agents with the orders handcuffed to their arms. So Bulge is able to get complete operational surprise against the Allies because they were so reliant on listening and breaking on Bletchley Park, breaking and deciphering the codes. Anyways, I got to do a few other things, but I just want to, having just watched that, I wanted to share with people about what that is. So most of my videos, I'm going to try and make them about 45 minutes to an hour, unless we're doing a panel. It's people who just want to keep going on and on. But I just wanted to let you guys see this, give you my thoughts on that like short little thing, and recommend if that's your type of thing to go look at it. And now and if you like what I do here and you want to see more, like, share, and subscribe, or join my locals. I haven't done anything with that. I was checking that out earlier today. Anyways, bye.